Tonight on Prime Business, Institute of Economic Affairs project a 2 percentage point increment in the policy rate of the Bank of Ghana to further 19%. We'll hear from its Director of Research, Dr. John Kwachi.
Proposing that, they should increase the policy rate by about 200 basis points at this meeting. That should be the immediate response.
Also, SMEs and young entrepreneurs take center stage at the 13th World Trade Promotion Organization Conference in Accra as member states deliberate on preventing an annual loss of $450 million in GDP to collapse small businesses.
The driver of Africa's recovery post-COVID-19 has to be small-medium enterprises.
Stakeholders in tomato value chain express worry over shortfall in supply leading to rising cost of the production.
No option than to buy the tomatoes.
I am Beverly Broohm. Please stay for details. Hello and welcome. As the Bank of Ghana prepares to hold its 106th Monetary Policy Committee meeting from Wednesday, players in the financial sector want the regulator to make decisions that would boost consumer confidence. Even though the exchange rate regime has been fairly stable for some time now, the inflation rate has seen a jump to 23.6%, the highest in 18 years. Speaking at the recent facts behind the figures organized by the Ghana Stock Exchange, Managing Director of Cal Bank, Philip Oredu, was hopeful the central bank will announce monetary policy measures that will propel economic growth by the next half of the year.
Economy as is now is still quite fluid. The MPC is going to meet quite soon, and we are all sure they are going to react to the hike in rates. Exchange rates, at least at the moment, we're seeing some sort of stability on the markets. We see inflation going up, which obviously would impact on consumer behavior, which will also then impact on growth as a whole. So we see some sort of moderated growth at the beginning of the year, though getting to the tail end of last year, we had started seeing some sort of signs when it came to challenges with the yields on the Euro bonds. Obviously, we were not expecting it to get to these sort of levels with respect to inflation rate, the rate of depreciation of the currency, the current interest rate regime in which we are. But we expect that various policy measures, various fiscal measures, as has been put in place by government and by the central bank, would address these sort of concerns, and we see some sort of moderated growth, though we were expecting quite an improved growth this year. I think that growth is going to be stemmed a bit throughout the year.
Meanwhile, the Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA, is projecting a 2 percentage point increment in the policy rate to a further 19%. This, it believes, would help narrow the gap with the rise in inflation and also ease, to some extent, the risk of foreign currency outflows. However, the move will increase the cost of living and doing business because lending rates will go further up, while money supply will reduce. Director of Research at IEA spoke earlier on the marketplace.
Proposing that, they should increase the policy rate by about 200 basis points. At this meeting, that should be the immediate response. And it is because, as I said, inflation is virtually, running away. We are experiencing inflation the highest in 18 years. Of course, it's not only Ghana that is experiencing inflation pressures. All over the world because of COVID and then the Russia-Ukrainian war. But it looks like ours, is quite excessive, and it caused a lot of hardship, in the economy. To the extent that all goods, the price of goods and services have, risen sharply. So now the first, instrument or tool available to the central bank is the policy rate. But I've also said that beyond that, they should also look at the sources, the supply sources that are causing inflation. In other words, if you look at food, the exchange rate, transport, fuel, and engage with government, work with government to see how you can also mitigate the pressures coming from those sources so that you don't rely exclusively on the policy.
Ghana and the rest of Africa risk losing an annual GDP of $450 million should struggling small and medium-sized enterprises and social impact entrepreneurs are not cushioned from the economic impact of COVID-19, climate change, and the war on Ukraine. Speaking at the ongoing 13th World Trade Promotion Organization Conference in Accra, Secretary General of the Continental Free Trade Agreement Area, Wamkele Mene, announced that the Secretariat is shifting its focus from large industries to SMEs to ensure inclusive and sustainable economic growth through a signed MOU with the International Trade Corporation. There's more in the following report.
The 13th World Trade Promotion Organization's conference has opened in Accra, a high-paneled forum which focuses on leveraging the economic potential of SMEs for inclusive growth.
We cannot have a trade agreement that benefits only the large corporations in Africa. They should benefit, but they should not be the exclusive beneficiaries. It should not be the elite. The driver of Africa's recovery post-COVID-19 has to be small and medium enterprises.
Battling the challenges of COVID-19, climate change, as well as the conflict in Ukraine, Executive Director of the International Trade Center, Pamela Cook-Hamilton, explained some reforms being introduced by the ITC to cushion Ghanaian and African SMEs from geopolitical developments.
So what this is about is breaking those down, taking them apart and beginning to look at strategic ways in which trade promotion organizations like yourself can actually help SMEs to not only survive, but to pivot and to thrive.
Speaking on behalf of President Akufo-Addo, Trade Minister Alan Tremantin charged players in trade promotion to employ aggressive and innovative reforms to position SMEs for resilience and recovery.
Trade must be mainstreamed in national development plans. Programs and projects that enhance trade must be aggressively pursued by TPOs. Secondly, TPOs must identify specific areas where global trade disruptions have created opportunities for scaling up local production in their national economy.
Joy Business engaged the CEO of the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, Dr. Efuasabi Osari, who says the $2.5 billion target by the National Exports Development Strategy in 2029 is aimed at addressing the threat facing SMEs was hit by the external factors.
During COVID, we thought that SMEs were going to fold up. Yes, it was very, very hurtful on their businesses. Most of them fold up, but most of them were also resilient, coming up with strategies and new ideas and new ways of doing things. And because of this, we were encouraged to also find more ways of helping them improve on what they were doing and the new ideas that they were coming with and how to even find markets for them.
The 13th World Trade Promotion Organization Conference is to explore bold solutions for resilience and recovery of African economies. It saw the Continental Free Trade Secretariat and the International Trade Center sign a memorandum of understanding for an instrument to boost SME development and women participation in the single African market.
The Ministry of Finance has revealed that government will publicly announce or account for revenues accrued from the electronic transactions levy twice before the end of the year. Deputy Finance Minister Abena Osei-Asare says the first public accountability will be part of the mid-year budget review in July. She was speaking at the one-day training event for more than 200 staffs of the Information Services Department on the electronic levy implementation. Prince Apia has more in the following report.
The government says the implementation of the electronic transfer levy will help rope in more people into the tax nets. Before its passage, one of the major reasons for rejection was accountable application of revenue. Deputy Finance Minister Abena Osei-Asare has been explaining how the government spends its revenue.
People say that they don't even know what government uses the revenues that we raise for. When you look in the budget, government is hoping to raise about 80.1 billion by close of 2022. In that same budget, government is hoping to use 35.8 billion Ghana cedis of that tax revenue to pay salaries for all government workers. Again, when you look in the budget, we are hoping that we will be able to close the infrastructure deficits by building more schools, attending to our roads and everything. In the budget, government is hoping to spend about 16 billion of that revenue to address this infrastructure gap. That is why there is the need to support government. Let's come together, support government in its drive to raise more revenue.
Meanwhile, many have called for an accountability mechanism to track the revenue accruing from the e-levy. Mrs. Osei-Asare says the government will publicly account for e-levy revenue before the end of 2022. She spoke on the sidelines of a training program in Kumasi for staff of the Information Service Department drawn from across the country.
We put it in the levy, how we are going to account for the monies that have been raised under e-levy. But remember, we always account for all revenues that are raised. We are going to give an account of how much we have been able to raise in the mid-year budget review, and also 2 months after the end of the year, we will be able to give an account of the second, how much we have been able to raise for the second quarter of the year. And in there, we will be able to also show or tell Ghanaians what we have utilized these monies for. Like I mentioned, e-levy is not the only revenue measure in the 2022 budget. There are several revenue measures and there are several revenue tax handles. There are several tax handles in there. Many others in there, including the sanitation levy, the COVID-19 levy, and the e-levy. And together, we are hoping to raise about 80.3 billion Ghana cedis. And e-levy happens to be one of the revenue handles or measures that government has put in the budget. So we are going to give an account of all the revenue measures that will add on to the 80.3 billion. But clearly with the e-levy, it is stated in the Act that we should give an account of how much we have raised in the mid-year and also 2 months after the end of the year for the second half of the year, how much we've been able to raise. So latest by the 31st of July, we should give an account of how much we have been able to raise and how much we have spent on monies that have come to us in the mid-year budget review. So in July.
The training was initiated by the Ministry of Finance and the Ghana Revenue Authority, together with other relevant agencies to help address misinformation about the implementation of the e-levy. Prince Apia reporting.
Deputy Minister for Communication and Digitalization, Amapoma Boateng, has encouraged dissatisfied customers to report telecommunication providers when poor services are rendered to them. Speaking to Joy Business on the sidelines of the 2022 World Telecommunication and Information Society Day celebration, she noted that it's within the rights of consumers of their product to report. Here's more.
World Telecommunications and Information Society Day is being celebrated annually on every 17th May since its inception in 1969 to mark the founding of ITU and the signing of the first International Telegraph Convention in 1865. This year, Ghana joined the rest of the world to observe the day under the theme Digital Technologies for Older Persons and Healthy Aging. Addressing the media, Amapoma Boateng entreated customers to lodge complaints of bad service to the NCA, and the necessary sanctions will be meted out to service providers.
When it comes to quality of service, NCA, people have the right to report to NCA that maybe the quality from my service provider is not as expected. Every citizen has the right to get what they pay for. These services are not free, so the telcos must give us the quality that we want, or probably more than what we expect. So NCA has a center or a number that you can call and have those complaints put to. And NCA would contact the telcos and make sure that, at this period, your service was poor. And, there are consequences. So the telcos and NCA all have know about this, but when nobody complains, some of the issues they might never get to the authorities. So people have the right to ask and get what they pay for. If your service is not good, please report to NCA.
The ministry also expressed worry about the low enthusiasm attached to the SIM card registration, despite extending the deadline to July 1.
We are worried, but we listen. We listened when people said they needed more time. We know the telcos were not comfortable with it because they were ready to send out more people to do the registration, which I think is still ongoing. And but there was so much pressure for us to extend it. People said they were waiting for their IDs to be ready before they can get on board. So with all of those things, we extended it. We've also realized that the number of people that register on a daily basis has also dropped. So we are going to intensify the advocacy once again. That the fact that it's been extended doesn't mean you wait till the 30th and then you go look for your IDs to go register.
Head of Office at UNESCO Ghana, Abdurrahman Diallo, who spoke for the United Nations Secretary General, called for improved internet services.
Information technology has vast potential to improve the lives of older people and their families and communities. But to make the most of the opportunities presented by 5G, artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, digital health, and other technologies, we must dramatically improve accessibility and inclusivity. Nearly half of humanity still has no access to the Internet. We must connect everyone, everywhere by 2030, because leaving no one behind means leaving no one offline.
Stakeholders in the tomato value chain have expressed worry over the shortfall in supply, leading to rising cost of the produce. The unfavorable rainfall patterns in parts of the country Rising fuel cost and conflict in Burkina Faso are challenges adversely affecting tomato supply. A box of tomatoes sold at 1,500 cedis a couple of months ago currently sell at 2,500 cedis. Traders say they recently recorded a glut in supply, but are now hit with shortage of supply. There's more in the following report by Mona Lisa Frimpong.
The price of one of the most important ingredients in food preparation, tomatoes, has shot up on the market. For 16 years, Gifty Azope has been the favorite go-to person for delicious rice, yam and stew at the Bantama market. But in the past 2 years, her customers are gradually turning away. Gifty is worried.
First, I method 20 cedis. But I say I method 30 cedis.
I was buying tomatoes 20 cedis daily. Now I buy 30 cedis. She blames her customer loss on the prices of vegetables on the market, especially tomatoes. Tomatoes sold expensively on the market have forced her to reduce the quantity used in preparing her stews. She dishes out little stew for every purchase. But her customers argue that rice with little stew does not help their appetite. Gifty is in a limbo as her profitability is affected by the rise in ingredients used for cooking. Many of my customers prefer scorched rice. Tomatoes are no longer sold at the usual 1, 2 or 3 cedis on the market. Now, 10 small pieces of tomatoes are priced at 5 Ghana cedis. Obethia has operated a local chop bar for over 25 years. Having experienced the price hikes over the years, she has given up. Lately, Obethia buys more canned tomatoes to substitute the fresh ones. I have no option than to buy the tomatoes. The canned tomatoes for weeks now have been the alternative for many food vendors. Traders who sell the commodity have been cashing in for weeks now.
This month is yeto. It didn't tell me to say fresh tomatoes. I said,
the sales of tin tomatoes are booming.
I said, the first 2 cedis are all turned for the next 10 cedis. And tomato don't me for them to fresh tomatoes. And to me, only the better tomatoes.
Prices of the canned tomatoes were stable, but the demand has led to a hike in the price of some popular brands. The price of tin tomatoes goes up every 2 weeks. In times like this, the demand for soft and squishy tomatoes becomes high. Though it is on the verge of spoilage, it is cheap. Traders say some food vendors unable to afford the fresh and canned tomatoes resort to these ones. When it gets rotten, it affects our sales. The tomatoes on the Ghanaian market are currently imported from Burkina Faso, but there is a shortage of supply due to the conflict in that country. This is an attribute of the high prices of tomatoes on the Ghanaian market. Traders from other regions trooped Burkina Faso.
The tomato paste industry, on the other hand, has been Ghana's neglected gold mine. Many factories which were operating have been shut down. Perhaps if these factories were in full operation, maybe they could produce millions of tons of tomato paste that could meet Ghana's growing demand.
Tomato traders are recording a reduction in profit. They want farms in the country to produce enough tomatoes to beat the exported produce from Burkina Faso. If the government could support farmers with irrigation system, there will be high yield. Mona Lisa Frimpong reporting.
Kentucky Fried Chicken, popularly known as KFC, has opened one of its branches in Cape Coast. The new branch in Cape Coast is the 27th branch to be opened in the country. Management of the facility believes with the history coupled with the tourism potentials of Cape Coast, the services of KFC will go far to provide great services to the people of Cape Coast and its surroundings. Speaking at the opening, Central Regional Minister Justina Marigold Assan promised the brand of the support of government and entreated them to maintain its standard and serve the people well. Here's more.
The KFC Corporation, based in Louisville, Kentucky, is one of the few brands in America that can boast a rich, decades-long history of success and innovation. The opening of the new branch here in Cape Coast adds to their growing numbers in Ghana and across the world. Central Regional Minister Justina Marigold Assan called on the brand to rely on the local content and live up to their standards because they have the support of the people.
In fact, I patronize your services and I know what you can do. And we pray that you will not compromise your services as Omahini rightly said. Provide customers with tasty and appetizing meals and fried chicken as well as create jobs for the people of the region. We just plead with you that employ the people of Cape Coast. Employ the people of Cape Coast. And then buy from the people of Cape Coast. Buy from the local people, so that in so doing you'll be contributing to the local economy. We don't want you to be importing everything to Cape Coast. Don't move to Accra, don't move to Takoradi for everything that we're using to run the facility.
The Omahini of the Ogwa traditional area, Osabre Makwesiata II, added to the advice of the regional minister and called on KFC to maintain its standard.
KFC is known throughout the world. You have a quality to preserve. Please stick to the quality of KFC throughout the world. The quality here should be comparable to that of the United States, of UK, or wherever.
The KFC marketing manager, Chris Adosakwe, thanked the people of Cape Coast for their support and promised them of quality service delivery.
We are excited to open our 27th branch here in Cape Coast. And I think for Cape Coast, everybody knows that when you are talking about the history and then the prominence of Cape Coast, it definitely can't be underrated. So as a business that keeps growing, as a business that keeps satisfying the consumers and the Ghanaians in general, we actually got a partnership through the Blue Butler family and then the Goyle.
That's it for business. We leave you with stories making headlines in the international front. My name is Beverly Broohm.